Hi friends, and welcome again to the friendly confines of my treehouse office. Today I would like to talk with you about a very sensitive issue, cultural appropriation. I'm going to read a short definition of cultural appropriation, which is defined as a form of colonialism, whereby elements of one culture are taken over by members of a dominant culture without an equal exchange. Now, it comes in many guises. I am the product of many cultures and have benefited greatly from each. And as you can likely tell, I am predominantly, if not totally, of European descent, although with my predilection for horseback archery, sometimes I like to fantasize about having Mongol blood, which I refer to as Genghis consciousness. In any case, the cultures that teach me the most and likely accept me the best are the shamanic spiritual cultures rooted in pre-conquest Lakota and pre-Inca and Inca cultures. And these have been given to me by traditional teachers. And for these teachers to open their knowledge and sacred ceremonies to people outside of their culture takes a tremendous amount of love, courage, wisdom, especially when they share these ways with people like me, descendants of the European culture. Understandably, not all Native people feel their ceremonies, ways, songs should be shared with outsiders. The feeling is that outsiders have already taken enough. And with this potential cultural appropriation, tend to seek to exploit or malign or disrespect their sacred ways. Many would prefer that we go back to our own lands and cultures. And that is the point of this little diatribe, because maybe we should. Yet realistically, the flow and mixing of people across the planet will continue. So I would like to address people of my race and culture who sometimes grapple with guilt and the appropriateness of learning indigenous ways from people with whom we share this earth. In other words, should we? Do we have the right? Can we ever know enough to honor these ways? Do teachers of cultures whose the majority of their people wish that they wouldn't share their ways with outsiders? Should that be respected and we simply withdraw? Of course, if we go back far enough in both time, space, time, and place, we are all indigenous. And this brings me to the Garden of Eden. In Book 10 of John Milton's Paradise Lost, Satan is reveling in having successfully tempted Eve to taste the fruit from the forbidden tree of knowledge. Adam ate from it too, because he didn't want to live in paradise without Eve. So in this passage, which I'm going to read a short bit for you soon, Satan, after enduring many trials and tribulations to find this new world in the first place, is back in hell, bragging to his minions about his success. He says that he made God himself give up his prized creations, perfect man in a perfect world. And Satan boasts that he can now release his twins, sin and death, into the world man was meant to rule, to prey, P-R-E-Y, to prey upon and foist upon man every possible misery ushered in by the demons of hell. So I'm going to read this short passage for you. If I may have to turn on this other light, put on my glasses, as I make enough mistakes in the dark without my glasses. So here we go. Book 10, Thence how I found the newly created world, which fame and heaven long had foretold, a fabric wonderful of absolute perfection, therein man placed in a paradise by our exile, made happy. Him by fraud I have seduced from his creator, and the more to increase your wonder, with an apple. I got to read that last part again. Him by fraud I have seduced from his creator, and the more to increase your wonder, with an apple. What Satan is saying is that once he found Eden, he didn't have to work very hard at all before both God and man lost paradise. All it took was an apple. And the miseries of which Satan spoke come upon us through our disconnection with the land, the Garden of Eden, so to speak. So when heartful non-indigenous people seek native ways, I think in many instances what we seek is that reconnection with the land and the consciousness that that brings. Rather than talking about shamanism or ceremony or any of the highly revered and powerful ways of hidden knowledge, and whether or not we are worthy of them, we should simply start with an earth-based reconnection with spirit, which will help us recover our soul. It may replace the need to look for something with a sense of wonder instead. That childlike connection with awe and of awe. As my teacher and shaman, Don Oscar Miro Quesada, has said, he said something such as this, that even the star beings who seeded this planet in the first place underestimated the appeal, the allure of materiality, meaning that the material world became much more attractive to us, that in and of itself, that attraction, you could say, almost usurped our consciousness with the larger connection. We can have both, but when that land-based, earth-honoring connection is lost, we lose a connection with spirit. Those two things go together. And this brings me to the apple. Ironically, some might say hypocritically, that I'm using an apple right now, an Apple computer. And it uses bytes, B-Y-T-E-S, whereas Adam and Eve took bytes from an apple. And I want to be clear, I'm not claiming that Apple computer is the devil's workshop or anything like that. Nor am I saying that Apple represents evil technology. However, the iconic apple of both paradise and technology is worth investigating, as maybe, just maybe, both are responsible from separating us from paradise by promising us something less valuable than what we already have, which is a connection with our planet. But we have to use it. Some may disagree, yet I think that this is the largest challenge we face now, getting back into right relationship with what gives us life and health and happiness. The purpose of technology and human advancement is to help us live a better life. Yet technology that separates us from what gives us life is likely not in our best interest. Sure, there are shamans deep in the Amazon, and in Siberia, in Africa, in India, and in the Himalayas, who have cell phones. And the thing is that they don't need cell phones to communicate with us, but we need them to have cell phones for us to communicate with them. As I reflect on my experiences and those of my friends, I remember one white friend at a Sundance who was lying on a buffalo robe waiting to be pierced. And the Lakota with a scalpel bent over him and said, "So, you still want to be an Indian?" And I think about why we step out of our culture and into another. For many, it just feels right. And for those authentic indigenous people who do share their ways with us, we can only be grateful as well as understanding if they sometimes chastise us for not doing things right. However, if we try to come into right relationship with our planet first, other things just seem to follow. Ceremony, shamanism, insightful dreams. Right relationship cannot be appropriated. And that's why it's such a good place to start and a good place to stay for those on a spirit path. What humankind, I feel, must come to terms with is something we've never done before. And that is to tell ourselves, no, our planet is not inexhaustible. So our demands of her cannot be either. If we are going to appropriate anything, it should be a land ethic and a disciplined imagination to help assure peace and prosperity for our children and their children. Thank you very much.